We have a new guest who's joined us in the studio. He is the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Crop Development in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, Harsama Kello. We welcome him the way we welcome our guests. CT has a proverb from Zambia.
Yes. Jump over a log, but not over your neighbor's word.
Jump over a log, but not over your neighbor's word.
Yes.
Jump over ni kuruka. Okay.
Avoid, in other words.
Usiruke jirani yako. Petero kiyesu. Bona PS, Harsama Kello. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
It's something you're used to. Your journey in public service has been long. I mean, you have worked as an administrator, you've worked as a county commissioner, you've gone into government, into ministry. You worked in this ministry for very many years. First as an admin secretary in the State Department for Crop Protection. Then you were the Director General of Agriculture and Food Authority. And now you are PS for Crop Protection. So when it comes to about wakulima, you understand everything that is happening in that ministry very well. Am I right?
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
So there's a lot that's been happening in terms of crop protection. Number one, of course, we know climate change and the way things have happened and the change in terms of our weather patterns, our rainfall patterns, farmers understanding what they need to plant when and the support that they need. Farmers complaining about the cost of inputs and that is affecting their output. Consumers complaining about the cost of food, and the farmers are saying it's because of the cost of input and all these other factors. The government of William Ruto comes in and says, we are going to sort out the input. And that's when he announced two things specifically. Number one, he said, we are going to subsidize fertilizer for our farmers, and we're also going to look at subsidizing seed for our farmers. And the first rollout of the subsidized fertilizer happened towards the end of last year. The major one is supposed to be happening now. We've been asking ourselves this question in this Situation Room. Are farmers actually receiving subsidized crop seed and fertilizer in preparation for the long rain season? What's the answer?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, they are receiving fertilizer. As you are aware, you have clearly stated that the issue of fertilizer is related to issues of production costs. For a long time, we have been having reduced production due to the cost of input of fertilizer, due to the cost of pesticides, and also cost of seeds. Now, because of the associated costs of production and also purchasing power of people who consume unga, it has been realized that either we subsidize consumption or we subsidize production. And the government of Kenya Kwanza has made a decision not to subsidize consumption, but to subsidize production. This means that we have to give subsidies to farmers which will finally or effectively impact on the prices of those produces later. And therefore, that is why the government has decided to subsidize fertilizer in two phases. One, during the planting season for 12 counties of North Rift, South Rift, and Western Kenya. And also subsidize fertilizer for short rains counties of Eastern Kenya and several parts of Central Kenya. Now, as we are speaking, we have started supplying fertilizer to long rains counties, which are 12 in number, in South Rift, to Western Kenya and North Rift. These counties are Kericho, Bomet, Narok, Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Kakamega, Migori, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Nandi. So as we are speaking, these people have started receiving these fertilizers, all the 12 counties.
Okay.
We are working with the Safaricom, which has digitized the distribution of this fertilizer. I will talk about the registration of farmers later, but the registration of farmers has helped us. The registered farmers have been logged into Safaricom list, whereby each farmer receives a text message which instructs him or her to go to the nearest cereals board or the Kenya National Trading Corporation stores to go and secure their vouchers, which are already there.
Let's talk about that registration actually right now.
Yes.
Because that's the beginning of identifying the farmers who will benefit in these 12 counties. How has that registration taken place?
Yes, well, thank you very much. The registration has been conducted through the provincial administration. You are aware that for a long time, we did not have farmers' data in the Ministry of Agriculture. What we had was some skeleton, which were not useful in planning. And therefore, the government decided to quickly put up a database of farmers. So we decided, as a quick win, to involve chiefs and assistant chiefs on the ground across the country. So these chiefs who are going around villages, we used the chiefs because we found they are more effective because they are on the ground. They understand ownership of land. They understand background of land, the size of acreage of land and everything.
Yeah.
Because of their familiarization with localities.
Yeah.
The last 1 month, we therefore carried out this census through the chiefs, and this has been successfully done.
How was this being done? What questions were the chiefs asking?
The chiefs were asking about ownership of land. Of course, we need to know the names of the farmers because these are the ones we are going to use in the distribution of these inputs. Okay. So the chiefs help us now to identify, to draw a list of farmers in his jurisdiction. He will tell us the name of the farmer, the acreage, the kind of crops he's planting, because of course that will determine the type of fertilizer we are using. All right. So these are the basic information we get from the farmers. In fact, the basic information on his ID card, including the sublocation, where the land is located, all this kind of information to help us now plan to allocate the inputs.
So right now, you have information from these 12 counties?
Yes.
Of all the farmers?
Yes, we have.
How many farmers are we talking about? How many
across the country, we have, from Turkana, Marsabit, Mombasa, even Nairobi, we have farmers.
Yeah.
And so many other places. So far, we have registered 4.1 million farmers. Okay? So across the country. So this is now what is going to help us.
Sounds like you haven't captured everybody.
The registration is continuing.
It's still ongoing.
It is ongoing.
Okay.
That is why I'm saying so far we have captured that number. We think that the number could go even up to 5 million, but we want to be accurate, and we are leaving it to the chiefs to tell us exactly what is the number they have not covered.
When you get the information, I want to focus on the 12 counties that are receiving fertilizer now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How many farmers are we talking about in these 12 counties of North, South Rift, and Western Kenya?
Yes. In these counties, we are talking about 1.5 million farmers. Already, we have the ones we have already registered, they are 1.08 in those 12 counties which are planting maize. Therefore, this will help us to plan for the distribution of this fertilizer. And as I said, we have already started. All those 12 counties have started receiving the fertilizers already.
Okay.
There are some farmers who have already secured. At least 3,500 farmers have already gone to cereal boards, Kenya National Trading Corporation stores and secured the fertilizer. The number is still increasing for those who are going to secure to get the fertilizers. And as I'm here at your studio, I want to appeal to the farmers in those areas, the ones I've just mentioned, to visit the nearest National Cereals and Produce Board in their localities to get those fertilizers.
In terms of the plan, whether it's mid-term or long-term, or even, short-term, meaning right now, how does this plug in to that plan for sustainability? Is this something, obviously this fertilizer we're talking about is coming at a cheaper, is a lower cost than what it would normally be. But in terms of sustainability of such a project, because if we're looking at reducing the burden of hunger in this country, if we're looking at then making farm inputs for material cheaper for farmers to then have sustained crop output, is this something that will continue, or is it something for now?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a very good question. It is very expensive for any government to do subsidies. As I told you in the past, the government used to do subsidies for consumption, like buying maize, technically, for people, or even buying unga, like last year, for people. It is not sustainable to do that. But we believe it is sustainable to invest in production. For example, we know that we have grappled with a decreased production because of the expensive inputs incurred by the farmers. But when we empower the farmers, definitely they will have, they will be able to invest properly, and therefore decrease, the government will benefit when we have decreased or reduced cost of unga price or other prices. Again, I can answer a question in this way. It is not very sustainable for the government to continue subsidizing year in, year out, for as many years as possible. For example, the amount of money we are spending on this subsidy for now, for this year, will be about 15.3 billion Kenyan shillings. That's a lot of money. For the government to continue investing in this, it will not be sustainable all through. And therefore, we have to ensure that we have to find sustainable means in future to ensure that we get out of this subsidy program. But for now, we have no option. We have no alternative. We have to give the subsidies because we have to reduce these prices.
One of the things that I find particularly of interest is a lot of government efforts are not known because one doesn't hear of them being spoken. And we are glad you're here in the studio speaking about it, because now people can actually get to know. But again, even as you're making these efforts to ensure that the subsidies are for production, we are then assuming that it will rain.
Yes.
Now, in the event that it doesn't rain, because that rain is absolutely necessary, not the rain, the water that the rain comes with, what other supporting effort is the government ensuring that water is available so that this subsidy actually becomes of use to the people who receive it? Because if you give subsidies, there is no rain and there is no supporting system to ensure that indeed there's a produce, then those efforts, one could argue, might go wasted.
Yes, very true, and I agree. I totally agree with you. It is true, part of our problem is climate change.
Yes.
And the last 5 years, for example, we have received very, very scanty amount of rainfall.
Yes.
And this has led to very serious food shortage, reducing food supply of about 4 million people currently who are going to rely on relief food. This is a very serious issue. The government is aware that rain-fed, what we call rain-fed agriculture, is no longer sustainable. And what we are now thinking is migrating to irrigation-fed agriculture. And that is why you have seen our president talking about constructing dams. He has clearly spelled out irrigation-fed agriculture policies by saying that the government will construct 100 mega dams in all the counties across Kenya. And therefore, this means that we are going to put a large area of our land under irrigation agriculture. And our policy is that in the next 6 to 10 years, we are going to put 3 million acres of land under irrigation. And this is going to help us a lot by feeding our people, because this country has a capacity, if you potentially utilized, has a capacity to irrigate all its land, produce food for local consumption, and also export to other countries. So basically, that is our plan to be sustainable in a situation of serious climate change repercussions, like the one we are having.
Right now, we are preparing for the long rains, and that's why you're focusing so much on these counties that are the long rain counties. Many of them, like you've said, many of the farmers that you've registered so far plant primarily maize. What has the Met Department said in terms of forecast for the long rain season this year? Are we going to have adequate rainfall in these 12 counties?
Yes, we have been in touch with them. They have told us that the rains may not even be enough even this season. They have predicted that we should prepare for scanty, less spread rains this year. So that information is very strategic to us. It's very important. And we are going to plan as much.
So what are we doing about it? Rains are supposed to begin towards the end of this month.
Yes.
Into March.
Yes.
You're already distributing fertilizer.
Yes, we believe that in those areas we're distributing, they will get fair amount of rainfall to sustain this crop.
Sufficient to actually get the crops to
sufficient
to harvest.
At least for those 12 areas.
Okay.
That is why we are investing in them.
How about the seeds? Because one of the other things that the government had pledged is it was going to provide subsidized seeds.
Yes. Normally, the government plans for 4 kinds of inputs.
Okay.
One is fertilizer. Number 2, seeds, pesticides, and another input called lime, which neutralizes acidic fertilizers. Now, and acidic soils. For now, we have started, everything you have to start in steps. We are starting with the fertilizer. We are not providing subsidized seeds or lime or pesticides at the moment.
Why not?
Of course, these are very expensive. We are doing in stages. At a later time.
Because it's been argued, Bona PS,
yes.
And you've been in this ministry for long. In fact, the information that I'm about to repeat
yes.
has come from experts in your ministry.
Yeah.
That these particular counties, many of the soils here have become very acidic, such that production has dropped drastically. So the amount of grain that comes out of an acre of land in any of these counties in the North Rift has actually reduced so much that we need urgent interventions with lime to reduce the acidity in the soils. So if we are not looking at how to work on the acidity of the soils and we give away the fertilizer and we are not even looking at the kind of seeds we are giving, are we really looking at effectively addressing the issue that we want to address?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, what we have done, we are aware about what you are saying about the acidity of the soil. That is why we stopped giving out this fertilizer called DAP. DAP is actually an acidic fertilizer. The kind of fertilizer we are now giving, NPK and as an assortment of local blends, which are friendly to those soils. Now, that's the strategy we have developed to ensure we stop supplying DAP and supply fertilizers like NPK and others blended, which fit the soil in that area.
Okay.
Yes.
So why also didn't we do the pesticides and the seeds? I know you've said it's expensive, but
yes, at a later time, we are going to provide those inputs. But for now, everything you start with step 1, step 2, step 3. Yes.
How much are the farmers to get the fertilizer for?
Sorry?
How much are the farmers paying to
Yes,
access the fertilizer?
the fertilizers are paying Kenya shillings 3,500 per 50 kg bag. You are aware that the local prices of fertilizer are really soared to, a shocking amount of 7,000, 6,500. And therefore, the government has decided to cushion the farmers by reducing the price to 3,500. This is a huge subsidy program, which has never happened in Kenya. Number 2, something unique and very good news, very, very good news to our large-scale farmers, particularly in those areas we are now handling the 12 counties I've just mentioned to you, is that in the previous fertilizer subsidy programs, we used to have limited, fixed number of supply to the farmers. For example, we could say a maximum a farmer could get, however big his land is 50 bags.
Yep.
All right? But now we are saying you can have 1,000 acres of land. You can have 2,000, 3,000. We will give you all the fertilizer you require.
All the fertilizer you need.
Yes. So I think that is big news to the farmers. We have huge, acres of land owned by farmers in Uasin Gishu, in Trans Nzoia.
Yep.
We are going to give them
all the fertilizer they need.
They require.
How much fertilizer do you have in the stores?
We now have already over 500,000 bags of fertilizer in stores, National Cereals Board, and KNTC is National Trading Corporation stores. Those fertilizers are already there.
Yep.
And I'm advising all the farmers, I'm appealing to them to take advantage, to avoid the last minute rush, to go there and pick those, buy those fertilizers at the specified subsidized rates.
Okay.
Let's take a break. Okay. You'll ask the question. 28 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation. Our guest this hour is the PS for Crop Development in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Production, Harsama Kello. He's talking to us about what the government is doing to address the plight of farmers as the long rain season comes up. And he says 12 counties have been identified. Those ones, fertilizer is available, 500,000 bags of fertilizer already in the country. The farmers have already been registered, 1.08 million farmers, but only 3,500 farmers have gone to pick fertilizer. So we have about 900,000 farmers who need to be doing what they ought to be doing, 800,000 farmers who ought to go and collect their fertilizer ahead of the rainy season. And these are the 12 counties. He'll tell us about those counties again after we take this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Our guest is the Principal Secretary for Crop Development in the Ministry of Agriculture, Harsama Kello. We are talking about the subsidy program and how the government plans to end hunger and achieve food security in Kenya. Ndu, you had a question.
Looking at this fertilizer that's now available that you're asking folks to come out and get, the farmers, where is this coming from? And is the government then able to purchase for a longer period of time at this rate, not locally available? Where is it coming from?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, the government has a lot of choices. It is guided by procurement procedures. If we find locally good prices, we will be able to buy from local fertilizers. But I can say that for these ones, some of them we have gotten from other countries, and part of them we have bought from local producers. We have local blending factories in Mombasa. We have ETG, we have Yara. So these are factories which are supplying us. Yes.
We talked about this conversation last week, and we even asked ourselves, so we have some local fertilizer companies, one that was even supported by the government, spoke large about it. Toyota set up a fertilizer plant in Kenya. Are you buying from such as well?
Yes, we are buying from such. Already, Yara is a local company. It's a big organization. They have their own factory here in Mombasa.
Yes.
Then we also have ETG. They have their fertilizer factory here. So we are buying from the local companies.
How much is the government spending per bag of fertilizer?
We are spending roughly, because different companies have different prices, but an average of about 4,700 per bag. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned, and I thought was really interesting, that the capacity for Kenya to produce, to have products year round, to have food in the barns, to realize a surplus from every planting harvest season exists. This can be seen. The capacity, the potential is there. And I don't think it's something that came about this year, obviously. It's been there, it can be seen. So then when we look at the cheap fertilizer that can be bought, what it does is it helps farmers in the interim, for sure. I mean, nobody can run away from that. Met says, look, the rains will come, but they will not be adequate. But there still lies there this capacity to have something sustainable done. So the question is, what are you seeing then are the challenges to bringing this capacity to life, to implementing this potential that Kenya has, despite it being where it is geographically situated, to have the barns full, to have produce all year round? Why doesn't it happen from what you see, and what can make it happen?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Undu. As I told you, this country has a capacity to feed itself throughout the country. It also has a capacity to go beyond feeding itself, to even export these produces. And this borders on what we have just said, on the capacity to produce. For us to maximally utilize, to feed ourselves, we must maximally utilize the land we have. We have millions and millions of acreage which are not used. For example, we have decided as a start, we are planning to put 500,000 acres of unused government land. We want to start with those ones. We have organizations like ADC, we have organizations like Carlo, Kenya National Youth Service, universities like Egerton, which are sitting on huge tracts of land which have never been utilized for any kind of production. And therefore the government, as a start to what she's saying, to satisfy ourselves and to utilize our capacity, then we have said as a government that we start cultivating this land. So very soon you will see us leasing out to investors who want to plant these crops. And we have started receiving quite a big number of them to start planting these areas, even digging their own boreholes to irrigate, creating their own dams. These people who are going to lease these large tracts of land will be able to ensure that the production will satisfy our people.
But this information, Bonapiers, of course, will be supported by current data.
Yes.
How many acres of land currently are under crop production in Kenya?
How many acres of
land?
Yes.
Are under crop production in Kenya currently?
We have very little acres of land under crop production. Slightly over 1.5 million of acres. We are underutilized. We have over 3 million acres of arable land in Kenya, and we have utilized only half.
About half of it.
Yes.
Why do you think we're not utilizing the others?
And
short of the government holding land that it's not.
Because of different reasons. One, some people are unable to develop this land because they do not have inputs. Some people have decided to buy land for prospective purposes. They buy huge tracts of land in Mombasa. They buy huge tracts of land in Trans Nzoia, in Uasin Gishu, and then keep them, idle for some of reasons which are beyond our understanding. Some people live abroad, in the US, in Britain, but the land is just idle. And what we are going to do is that we are going to ask the government to tax this idle land. We are going to heavily tax idlers who are unable to produce anything from this land, with a view to encourage them. They use the word encourage, not to force. With a view to encourage them to make the lands productive.
To put the land under use.
Yes.
You'll agree, of course, Bono PS, that a majority of the 1.5 million acres that's under crop production currently is by subsistence farmers.
Yes, it's true.
So the other half, the 1.5 million acres of land that is underutilized, is by large, big landowners.
Yes.
And you're saying many of them are holding land for speculative purposes and don't have incentive to actually put it into production.
Yeah.
But why? Why would they do this when they can clearly see that there is a market if they just invested in production? If they can afford large tracts of land, then they can also afford to put the land into production.
That is why we want to tell them that this land must be productive. And for their own reasons, probably, lack of interest. And also, let me say that, agricultural issues go with market and also political will of a government to support its people to do certain undertakings. What is coming out very clearly to many people, and what should be clear to them, is now that this government has a political will, actually a political goodwill, to support everyone who is interested in any kind of investment. This government has a goodwill to support farmers. For example, many of our farmers have been discouraged by farming, have been discouraged from farming because of problems of marketing. They know that they produce a lot of avocado. Once they produce a lot of, maize, they have nowhere to take these things. In the past, that has been the problem. But now, as a government, we have so many new initiatives which are going to encourage the farmers to go the food production way, to go the land utilization way. One major plan we are having is to establish agro-processing plants in different parts of the country. We are establishing 6 agro-processing hubs across the country so that people who engage in farming and who produce a lot of, different kinds of value chains, they will be able to take their crops to factories for various value addition, which can easily be marketed. And so with these new initiatives, we believe that many people who have not been able to go to farming, they can now take this advantage and open up this land.
This is a hustler government.
Yes.
And hustler is looking at, that's one person who's hardworking, who is looking for opportunities just to be able to, a conducive environment. They're hardworking, they're willing to work. You talk about looking at how to get all these 500,000 acres of unused government land put under use. And you're saying you've received several applications from several large-scale farmers. Have you thought of how you can bring together the hustler farmers to take advantage of this? Maybe working together and as cooperative societies, coming together as farmer cooperatives, and then the government allocates them hundreds of thousands of acres, 100 acres, 1,000 acres, and tell them this is yours as a cooperative entity.
Thank you very much. The government is aware that there are a group of very, very poor farmers, which you are calling hustler farmers. And I agree with you, because we have accepted the definition of hustler in government as hardworking people who are trying to earn a living, struggling to make ends meet. We are aware that there are about 1 million farmers in Kenya who are very poor. Some of them have 3 acres, some have 5 acres, some of them have 1 acre, and they are unable to do anything on their land. So what we are doing is to ensure that these farmers realize their dreams. These poor farmers, the category I'm calling poor farmers. The president is aware that these people exist, and he has directed my department to ensure that we cater for these poor farmers. For example, we are going to ensure that very soon these poor farmers are profiled properly, are listed properly, so that they are able to benefit from subsidies like fertilizer. Different from other farmers now, they are going to specially receive seeds, they are going to specially receive pesticides, so that these hustler farmers realize their dreams of feeding their families and even selling a little of what they produce.
Should they not be the priority when you're talking about allocating government land to large-scale farming?
Yes.
Should you not be starting with these farmers who
These
are
farmers,
capable? All they need is the support.
yes, these farmers I'm talking about have their own land. As we are speaking, they have, I just explained that some of them have land ranging from 1 acre to 5 acres. They do not have a problem of land ownership. What the problem they have is the problem of input. Yeah, they have 1 acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, but they have a problem of input. And that's the one I said, as a government, we are going to focus on them as, a priority group, special group to be supported.
Bonapias, as we speak now, would we say that we as Kenyans are able to sustain ourselves, that we have adequate production of foodstuff to sustain its people? Do we have currently?
Yes, we have a huge capacity and potential.
No.
Yes.
Not capacity, not potential.
Yes.
Do we have right now adequate food to feed our people?
Okay.
There's a reason why I'm asking the question.
Yes, I will
Perhaps,
answer you.
let me perhaps go into the details why I'm asking you the question.
No, I've understood.
You've understood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me answer you. That's right now, as I explained, last 5 years we have had very little amount of rainfall. And this has really impacted on food production. It has really impacted on animal survival. You have seen millions and millions of our livestock dying and all our crops drying. So as we are speaking, we have a serious shortage of food. Between now and August this year, we have very little amount of maize, which is very staple, the staple food we are eating in Kenya. And therefore, because we have realized that we have a gap of about 10 million bags of maize between now and August, we have decided to import. So you are aware that we put in our newspapers, all our newspapers in Kenya, to urge business people or anybody who is interested to take advantage of tax waiver. We have waived tax on maize import. And so we have asked people who are able to bring in maize from other countries to look for good prices so that they come and sell to millers in Kenya, so that we are also able to reduce the unga prices for Kenyans to afford.
See where I'm going with my question?
Yes.
Is if we were to meet the target you say that we have the potential,
yes,
then it means that the farmer would have a ready market within the country.
Yeah.
So even when it comes to making money, they can actually make money from within.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the times when we haven't had this sort of drought and we've been in production, we have still imported, meaning our local production always seems to fall short. Now, if there's that gap, then it means that whatever is produced can be consumed, and whoever produces it can actually make money from it. Now, again, my question is, the supporting systems that ensure that this happens, not now, but in the future. Okay, we have climate change.
Yeah.
This may not be a docket, but how do we mitigate against climate change? Because it's this climate change that is responsible for the problems that we now have, and which is actually causing us to talk and have the plans that we have. Because if we have all these beautiful plans, you know, I asked this question before and I'm asking it again, and all these other processes that support and ensure that climate change doesn't interfere with our plans are not in place, then everything that we are planning for will not work out.
And that's why I said we'll have to change our mode of agriculture from rain-fed to irrigation agriculture. That is the only sustainable way of managing our food security from now on. And I think the important thing, which I must mention, is for us as a government to change the mindset of many Kenyans. One big mindset we are having is that there is no survival without rain in Kenya. So much so that everything is rain, rain and rain. Even for me, when I'm here in Nairobi, when somebody calls me from Marsabit, where I come from, the first thing he asks me, has it rained in Nairobi?
It's a form of greeting.
It is a form of greeting. And this is because of a fixed mindset which we are having. And what is going to happen as a government is that we must change the mindset of people from rain-fed to irrigation agriculture. And the way to go is irrigation number 1, irrigation number 2, irrigation number 3.
Irrigation.
I don't know whether I've answered your question, Mr. Muga.
Actually, you have. Let me explain to you again why this concern.
Yeah.
We've had problems of storage in the past.
Yes.
Now, when we meet the target that we are now setting, will we have also planned to have adequate storage? Now, if we do have adequate storage, and we talk about ensuring that we have what you call irrigation-fed agriculture, do the farmers whom we hope to work with, who are the partners, who are partnering with the government, are they involved in these processes, and are they fully aware of what is happening, so that as they plan, they also plan with this government plan in mind?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you know, you're asking me a good question. I was previously in provincial administration, and I went a paramilitary program one time. And the instructor was telling us, if you are going to war, because definitely paramilitary has to do with war, and if you are taking your officers to a certain combat, tell them what they expect. Okay?
Yes.
You are taking administration police officers to raid somewhere, to raid a Changai den, or, you know, to raid bandits in a village. So the instructor told us, tell your officers what you are going to expect. The kind of force those people will be used even to repulse them. The strength, everything. Expectations. So we must be able to tell our farmers what they will expect in a new change of strategy. Okay? What is it? What is this we are talking about? Irrigation. How is it going to impact? The farmers must know. We have these people called agriculture extension officers. We must make use of them to educate the farmers on the new irrigation strategy. For example, I have mentioned that the government plans to set up 100 mega dams. And we must be able to tell people how they are going to be involved, because it is a PPP program, private partnership program. They must be educated about their expectations in a program, in a pattern of public-private partnership. They must be told. They must be also told and trained about irrigation science, because many people are just used to waiting for rains and to flood their land, and they start farming. So they must be trained. They must be sensitized on how to do irrigation agriculture.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good one. Yes, you're saying that they should go to NCPB and Kenya National Trading Corporation
Yes.
to collect their fertilizer. And it's important that everybody knows, because we are saying 1 million farmers ought to take advantage of this. Only 3,500 have taken advantage of this now. Have you heard a complaint of transport?
No, we have
Cost
had.
of transport. I mean, it's too far to go to NCPB. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Yes, we have received those concerns. And, we have really tried to make life very simple for farmers by ensuring that they collect these fertilizers from near their homes. The nearest possible convenience to where they live. We have tried to profile some agrovets in villages. We listed about 1,800 agrovets across the country to ensure that the farmers collect from their nearest agrovets. But we found out that these agrovets have no capacity. That's why we have
Stuck with NCPB
we have
for
stuck
now.
with NCPB for now.
Okay.
But we have told the governors when we met them at the summit at Naivasha 2 days ago to help the farmers transport this fertilizer from cereal boards to villages using their own transport. And governors have accepted.
Let's do the news, Bonapiers. I hope you're not leaving. There's several questions that I'd like you to respond to after we do the news
Okay.
in about 15 minutes.
All right.